Hello everyone. Today is another stream of me doing my game day work. Tada! I have my funny to-do list on the right here, and it's a lot of different funny things. At the top we have menus, and I recently added gamepad support. So I have my trusty old DualShock 3 here that I still use for some reason. DualShock 3 does not have good native Windows support, but you can install some nice wrappers and stuff to get it all going. But yeah, so I use that. Should also buy some of those Microsoft gamepad just to make sure. I need to test my gamepad stuff on all those platforms. One thing that really annoys me in games quite often is you need to know all these symbols. So when you use an old gamepad like this, these symbols, if you make this one work on Windows will think it's usually an Xbox 360 or Xbox One controller or Xbox box controller, or whatever they're called these days. And then it shows the wrong symbol. So if you use a PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4 controller or something, then it will show the correct PlayStation symbols. But when you emulate, it will show these. So I really like in some games when they have so you can choose which icons to use. So you can see like, oh, I want these icons in the HUD, and also here are the bindings. I don't know why we're talking about that, but just something I thought about that I might want to do in the menus as well. Anyway, so I want to do menus. Use this classic menu when you start the game, some kind of a menu on escape, bit of everything. I don't know. I don't have any menus at all, so it'll be something. So let's see. So here's the game running. I am currently in a big I've had some builds up on my Discord server where people can try the game. There's lots of feedback, lots of things I need to fix. I have already fixed one big thing, which is compact down the first level a lot. So the first level is very much smaller because there was too much running back and forth on it. So if anyone has seen this before, like the time it now takes to run, like this is already half the distance to come to this point, and then it's almost half the distance to come down to here, and then you have this funny waterfall guy, and then almost immediately after the waterfall you have this kind of mountain area. So I did that last week. I compressed it down because with video games, some people like having I have my environment, so I want it to be cozy to walk around in. That's all good, but you can make it cozy, but also compact it down a bit, so the gameplay sort of stays tightly together. I think there are some games that they really like. There's some games that really like to have. They really like to try to have this sort of say that there's a game of a forest, and then you're supposed to be walking through the forest, and then it's very long distances between the gameplay elements in the forest. And I think that sort of it might be a good idea sometimes, but quite often you are missing what maybe it's hurting your game sometimes. I think I'm very what are some I recently saw some discussions on Twitter about Talos Principle 2, where Talos Principle 2 has apparently too much just random walking between places just because someone wanted to I don't know if it's because someone wanted more environments or something, I don't know. But anyways, and then we have other games I think my absolute favorite video game of all time, Outer Wilds, not the Outer Worlds, Outer Wilds. That game, is a tiny solar system, and it's so bunched together. Space is big and empty, but in this case they made tiny planets in a tiny solar system, and you can go between planets within 30 seconds usually. Super nice, and I really like that idea of video games being this miniature version of the world that you can look into rather than trying to be the world, because the world is big and vast and empty. So I think it's nicer for the experience to kind of try to compact it down a bit. So I had this feedback on my first hello mine build. I had this feedback on my first build that people were like, oh, I want a sprint key because there was too much running back and forth. And I was like, I do not, like, that's a classic trap, you know, like, oh, am I gonna implement a new mechanic now because it's because people say that they want just because they want the sprint key, should I implement a new mechanic now? And then I thought a bit more about it, like, no, it's only this first level and it's too much just open space where the only thing you do is running. But yeah, mine build says that they liked walking in Talos Principle. Yeah, I don't know if you meant the first or the second game. I actually played none of them. It was a bad example since I haven't played any of them. There was just a discussion on Twitter that the first game people thought was perfect, but in the second game some people thought it was too much walking around. But this is also a question of preference, you know, between different players, and you need to do what makes sense for your game. Like, is it supposed to be like is the primary focus supposed to be like cozy vibes and environment? Then you need to focus on that. But if your primary thing is the gameplay, and then you can of course still have sometimes, you know, a tiny bit of transport. I like the Red Dead Redemption 1 is a game that had, like, suddenly you enter a new chapter and then it was like horseback riding for like 2 minutes with music, and you felt that this is an important moment and you're going through the environment. Super good. I love when they do stuff like that, because it was a break between everything. But they don't just, like, I don't like when games do that all the time, just because, like, oh, now it's like anytime you want to do anything anywhere, it's just running through environments that are mostly it's fine if those environments have things to do in them, but if they're just empty sort of backgrounds, then I don't know. But it's just also preference. But anyways, I've compacted this down. So now you'd like this guy and this guy over here, you can see both at the same time. You couldn't do that before. But yeah. So we've compacted down the first level, but we're gonna make menus today. Making menus, drinking coffee and stuff. It's a bit unusual for me. It's actually morning. I never stream in the morning before. I was just having like a feeling, like Monday, let's kick off with a stream, do something. Who knows what will happen? Okay, let's think about where to put. I mean, now it's like, you know, one of these brand new features. Like, where do I put the menu in the code and all that stuff. So we have my game. As some people know, I use Odin programming language, which is this. I've started marketing it. But when people want an elevator pitch of the language, I say it's a low-level language with a high-level feeling. And the reason I almost sing it is because I was doing a sound check once where I kept reading the line from an old video that was low level with high-level feeling. So I usually say, oh, then it's low level with high level feeling. Which is a nice combo. Because usually the problem with low level languages is that you feel like you're from 1984 and don't have all those fancy new sugary features that you want. But here you have them, but you also have direct control over everything like in C. Okay. Where do we put the menu? Game memory. This is my big global blob of crap. Very good to have a big global blob of. And I think actually maybe we have this game state already that I've used for. This is like when you're playing the game in the normal sense, and then I've added some special cases here where the game enters a sort of mini game. It short circuits the whole thingy. So I was thinking, maybe we can use this. Well, I wasn't thinking it, I thought it now. Yeah, maybe we can do that. Question is, okay, game state, this is my update loop here. My update loop thingy is doing a lot. This is a bit of a spaghetti. Play mode update. I think that we should do this. Play mode up. What's this supposed to be called? I think I want to. So I have these two game modes, but these game modes actually require all the default game mode stuff to execute, which it does appear. But I'm thinking maybe it should be like this instead. Default game. I don't know. Is there a game update? Yes. What am I supposed to call this? Space game update. The other one is called game update because that's the entry point for the whole game from my hot reloading DLL. LLLLL. Space game. Game update default. Whatever. So I'm thinking something like this. In these two cases and then we do like this, and then we can have like a new one here that's like case game state menu. Maybe. All these things are always a bit icky because maybe I want the menu to be. Maybe I want the menu to be overlaid the game like this, and then you need to execute the stuff in the background. But maybe we don't do that, just to keep things simple. Game update default. Is this how we're gonna do it? And then we add the menu after. I just need to refactor this a bit to get all that in. So much crap here. What's all this doing? This is. This is some crap. This is some event handling. Yeah, let's try that. We will try to move a lot of code at one go. Let's just call it update default. I call it. Whoops. Call it update default. It's a proc that does stuff. Okay, and I think what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna take all this stuff down to here, shove it in here. Very nice. Then we're gonna look here. We're gonna take all this stuff. It's a bit weird that this is sandwiched in between here. I wonder if that has any. It will have some ordering implications. So in games, you know, sometimes you get bugs because you have dependencies on the ordering within the frame. So like if entity X updates before entity Y and stuff. But let's just try that. This might just compile already. Yeah. This is of course gonna work. Does exactly the same thing. Question is if the space game works properly. Seems like it. Wait, no. Yeah, something is wrong here. There's no background now. If I do, what happens if I'm just gonna experiment a bit here. If I flip those, yeah, then it... Ah, I know why. Because this update default also cues sometimes on drawing of things. No, the space game update cues some drawing of things, I think. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, here this draws the world. I should separate those two things out. Okay. Let's do this. We say draw default, and then we go back and we say update date. No, now we're in Raylib. Update default. So we will split the rendering and we take all this stuff, which is mostly rendering stuff, and then we put that in draw default, and then here we can now say update default, draw default. Something like that maybe. Now it's something is sad. How did this one... Yeah, this is something funny with the compiler's little checker for unused variables, because I didn't change this code. Just remove that line. See if it works properly now. Yeah, now the space comes. Good, and then let's see if the gameplay works properly. Should, because I mean now it essentially works like before. You split into two functions. Yeah, good. So it all seems to work. Switch back to level there. Play mode default. Okay, so now our play mode update is just this. Okay, that's good. What do I do now? Now I need to add the menu somehow. There's probably two menus. There's probably like an in-game menu and the main menu. Let's start with the main menu. Game state main menu. So this is a union, so it's actually a struct. So we do like this. Let's say this is a struct. Compile. Go here. Delete game state. There's nothing yet there. Play mode update. Well, this is gonna do some interesting stuff. And then we have, where is this? Is this in the the draw? It's a draw world. Yeah, this is a bit hacked together, I guess. I'll leave it for now. So, and now if we start the game, it might just hang because it has... Let's kill that one. I think it has no update loop really. Maybe because in Raylib begin and end drawing also pumps event loops. Okay, that worked because it somehow gets into the default state. Game init. Okay, because this loads a level right now. It probably shouldn't do that because load level will also switch the whole game state over. So let's... This is all, you know, you've never had a main menu and then suddenly you put in a main menu. And then all this kind of stuff like, oh, the game init just loads the first level. And it's like, maybe not. Maybe we can do like this. If level name int is not -1. This is just a thing that for a hot reload, so it can reload the same level sometimes when it needs to reset the whole game. So I will do like this, I think. Yes. So that will make it load the level if this one is not -1, which is just a value I use for saying that there is no level to load when the game inits. Otherwise we will do this. GameM.gameState what's it called? Equals GameState main menu. Yeah, so now that one is probably just hangs because it has no event loop. Does that eat like a million CPU? No good. I was just checking if it was spin locking somehow. So we kill that one again. And then you can go here with the draw default. You can say rl.begin drawing, rl.end drawing. This will make it pump the loop in Raylib. So now here's our main menu. Ta-da. But it's always nice, you know. I'm sure that none of my gameplay code is running because the play mode update does absolutely nothing of this. It just like does this. I can close it and it's all good. Okay, so maybe we make a main menu update. Shove this in here. Ooh. And then I didn't make enough coffee. Damn it. Then we have that. Then we need to clear the background, and I'm just gonna do like this. Smack. There we go. Nice and red. Let's see here if we can maybe draw some text on there just to get a little title going. What's it called? Draw. What if I use... I will use this. So one thing about my game is I'm not sure about the name yet of it. I should decide on that pretty soon because I think it will come automatically. Like it will come. Better ideas will come when I'm like gonna put some music in and it's all gonna start coming together a bit. So I think so. In this game, you meet your friend the Space Onion and you go on a little adventure. So one idea for the name was Cat and Onion, but it sounds like a cooking game, which I don't love. Another funny thing is that the game has a theme where you try to help your friend make pancakes, but that you end up just going away in a rocket for different reasons. But it has this like whimsical theme of that it always and loops back to that you should try to make pancakes. So then I was like, oh, maybe it should be called Cat Makes Pancakes, because it's there's this thing about names. That also sounds like a cooking game, I know. There's this thing about names that names and any kind of also marketing in general, that it's good to put in things that will not let the people who play it down. So they like, if you see like, oh, this game says it's a whimsical adventure game, and then you go on an adventure and it's pretty funny, but then you also go to space suddenly, then people will be like, whoa, it did everything expected plus much more. But if you say that if you name the game Cat Makes Pancakes and some people think it's a cooking game, and then there's no cooking at all involved, then people might be like, I bought this because I thought it was a cooking game, and now there's no cooking. So it's nice to make sure that whatever marketing material you put out, that for your target audience you meet some expectation, like they expect this to be in the game, but then also they will get lots of unexpected things. But but you can't always put those unexpected things in the marketing material, or put it as a core feature at the top. You know, if you say you have a Steam page and at the top you put something like, oh, do you go to space? Because what if that part is like 5 minutes in the middle, and then you market it like it's a space game, you know? And it's common problems, I think, when people do this kind of strange marketing where the people who buy it, their expectations is totally not met from the whatever it says on there. But it's that's all a bit tricky, of course. But anyway, so I'm trying to find a good name that both sets the correct expectations, but it's also a bit unique. I think I want the word cat in there because I think it's a good way to... It's quite a catty game, so I think it's a good way to sort of set a very specific expectation. There will be a lot of cat in the game, but then it's something about what happens in the game, or maybe something a bit more abstract. I'm not sure, but I'm trying to figure that out. Another thing people often do on their Steam pages I've seen is that they like to describe their game in terms of other games. So they're like, oh, this is like a Hades, like, you know, someone is making like this, someone's making a roguelike or something, and then it's like, oh, it's like Hades meets SimCity or something, and then the game then people will start expecting that, oh, this favorite thing I have from Hades should be in the game, and then it's not in there, and then they get disappointed. So it's better to focus on the specific things, like put in your Steam page, put in the specific things that make your game, that you think is a unique selling point for your game and makes your game nice. And then if there's extra bonus things that happen, then those will be sort of the nice, you know, people post a clip on YouTube or some streamer or word of mouth, you know. But it's hard to meet people's expectations all the time. So I have no clue what to call this game. But now we'll put Cat Makes Pancakes. It's a terrible name. So I will do that, and then I will sell 5 copies on Steam. Oh, it's giant. Let's see here. So we have our... I'm trying to just write a heading here. This is my main menu. Very bare bones. I have like, yeah, the GUI scale I want, like this. See, like 20 times GUI scale maybe. How big is that? Very nice. And then we say color. What's it called? Have a few. These are my 8. So my game only has 8 colors. These are 7 of them for some reason. This is very interesting. This one has tabs here. There was a period in my life where I coded with visible white space all the time. So I always saw these small dots. And then I saw, because I was so tired of me accidentally somehow using the wrong white space in a file. Like, I don't know. So there was a while where these days I've started using tabs again, because the old standard library uses tabs for indentation. So but it really doesn't matter. I use spaces and tabs, and I don't think it matters. You just be consistent within the same file, essentially. But then spaces are used for padding like this. You shouldn't use tabs for padding because they will vary in length. A space is always the same length. So it's like this. Then you could be like, oh, but use spaces everywhere. Use spaces both for the indentation and the padding between things. But yeah, you can do that. Doesn't matter. Let's see here. Oh, look at that main menu. Yeah, so Mindbuild says it does matter if you share to plan your code with others. Yes, so just make sure you're consistent with, at least within each file, because most text editors will detect. But just be consistent within the whole project. You mean, okay, you mean that we should use one should use tabs because then people can customize it to whatever. Yeah, but then there's there's 1,000 other things in each project that people need to get used to, that they can't change, like what naming convention do you use, what how do you like, is there certain naming things you had try to avoid, all those small things. So I really think it just within each code base, just be consistent, and if someone has decided to use spaces, you have to use spaces. I used to always use spaces because I just quite often like looking at code on GitHub, and GitHub defaults to showing it as 8 spaces. And that's a common problem online, that tabs become 8 spaces in any kind of raw file. So that's just the one reason. But just be consistent within a project and you're fine. Because when you're consistent within a project, then it really doesn't matter, because you can't change it. So it doesn't matter. So it's just whoever decides it the first day, maybe tabs are a bit better, but once that decision is done, then just live with it. Dun dun dun. Okay, so we need to have some, I don't know what's supposed to be here. Nim uses a 2-space indentation. That's quite unusual, I guess, in their standard library. Yeah. That's a bold choice. To not only use, usually people use 4 spaces when they use spaces for indentation, but 2 spaces. That's. I had a friend in high school, I think it's called, who was like, I use 1 space. He just pressed space once. So I was like, okay. Very interesting. Yeah, but I think people like spaces because they look at code in different, maybe they look at GitHub and stuff, and then all web browsers and stuff always show it as 8 spaces, and then they think it's too ugly, so they just switch to spaces. And that's it's only within your text editor that is actually configurable what the spaces is, how many spaces it is. Otherwise, for often it's 8. So okay, now I have a menu. No, I don't. I need to game state main menu. Okay, how does a menu work? We have like a main menu option, main menu choices. We're gonna call it enum, and we can call these start, options, exit, maybe. Is this how I want to do it? I don't need to. I can do like this for E in. Is it possible to do like this? Is that? Where are you expecting a comma? Ah, there. Yeah. And then I will for now just print these enum choices. So here's a problem with Odin has strings that have a length, like they're like a pointer and a length, right? There's no null termination in the strings, which is good because null termination is one of the worst design ideas ever of in computing history, I think, because essentially what you've done is you've encoded metadata into memory that is often dynamically allocated. So it's a terrible idea. But because so many C libraries depend on null terminated strings, like Raylib is a C library, so it depends on null terminated strings. So if you come from something like Odin that has the string is a pointer plus a length, then whenever you want to pass it into something else, then you have to make a temp allocation and make it into a string with the null terminator at the end. I mean, there's other. You could also try to make sure you can also use null terminated strings with Odin. So actually the string inside the string is null terminated, but so there is a null terminator at the end. You could build strings like that, but then you make sure that all strings in your whole program has null terminators, and because then you can use this funny like strings.odin unsafe. Like you can do this string to string unsafe, then it assumes the string has a null byte. So if you made sure that all your strings in your program has a null byte at the end, which is almost impossible because then you can't use proper slices and stuff. Like what you can do in a string is you can do like a substring of saying like, oh, this string is from here to here, like it's at this position, this is this long. substring, and then you can't do that without allocating a new string. And this is why C strings are so terrible, because, for example, if you want to make a substring, you quite often must allocate memory, because you suddenly, if the new substring, like if your string is this sentence and there's a null terminator here, and you want to only take this as a substring, then you must take this out and add a null terminator here somehow. But if you just had a pointer plus a length, then you can just take the pointer to here and just count, okay, we want this many letters. No allocation, just pass it on. But yeah, so it's annoying everything. So I have this temp C string function. Use the temp allocator to just spit out the string. There's many. I was thinking a while to kind of try to make sure my strings always have a null byte, but then I realized, yeah, I can't do slices of strings and stuff, so nah. When we put this at maybe 50, so the menu item position is at 50. We make the font size a bit smaller. Then we do menu item pos plus equals something like this maybe. See how that looks. Didn't compile. Okay. It wants it to be a float, so we do that. Okay. Sorry, I have to go. My nose is sad. Null terminated strings. Null terminated strings. Going around the house grumbling about null terminated strings. Such a bad idea. Look, it almost looks like a menu now. Ship it. Make that a bit bigger, add some more spacing. This is one of my favorite uses for hot reload. Building UIs, because UIs is like 1,000 tiny tweaks. You're like, oh, I'm just gonna add like a little bit of this here, oh, change that value maybe, how does that feel? So you have immediate mode GUI plus hot reloading, and then you can make UIs and tweak them while you are working on it. Because otherwise, when you make UIs, if you want to make them from code, it's like, oh, I just have to recompile and restart my program and blah blah blah. Yeah, I think it's almost, I get sad if I don't have it. Okay, so we will maybe push this in a bit more. I realized that maybe, yeah, so all these values need to be multiplied by the UI scale, because otherwise not gonna scale correctly. Yeah, no, this is a giant value. Yeah, that's all fine. Belt, leather belt, okay, then it should probably be like 10 here. Have to move this guy up a bit, like that. And this one should be like that. Push this one down a bit more. I just had to redo the positions a bit because of I realized I didn't have the UI scaling on there. Now it should. When I do this, it sort of stays, and the font size is also like this is, you know, this is what you expect, and that's just using my GUI scale, which is just, this is just like my expected pixel height of the game divided by the actual screen height. So it's just a ratio, right? Okay, so today, for anyone who joined, we're making the main menu for the game, because I have never had a menu in the game. Let's push that in. So we will need a marker here for like which choice is currently marked and stuff. So we'll need that. Oops, wait a minute. I was doing some admin on my second screen. I have the streaming. Yeah, I used to use my laptop as sort of for the chat, but these days I have a vertical screen on the side here. Look, I will show you the magic. There's a mystical screen here. There's me. There's the stream and OBS and stuff. So it's on the side. It's nice to have this chat there, and I also can see OBS, like what it's doing, if everything is okay and everything. Because sometimes if you have technical problems, it's nice to see that. So but then you can also have like, I can have Discord over here without, you know, it popping up and someone saying something inappropriate on the stream or something. Get trolled by someone. So I can still have it up on the second screen. Hello, David. Okay, so, and now we need a plop here for which choice is currently marked. Could be like that. Main menu. I'm gonna just take all this. Main menu update. Put it down here so I can just work on it simultaneously. I already have like a, the epic paw. I'm going to show you what the paw is. So if I do like rl.draw texture pro, this is the professional texture drawing method. It's very funny. This in Raylib, it's like this draw texture V for vector, and then it's the draw texture EX. I think that's extended. We can also read excellent. And this is draw texture rectangle, or maybe it's recommended. No, it's for rectangles, because it's rectangles instead of vectors. And then it's the draw texture pro, which has all the options. It's for the professionals. Okay, so we'll do like this. I will draw my paw here. That's just the marker I use in dialogue. That's what it is. Texture rect. Is this the function? Text rect. What's it called? Draw texture source rect. Yeah, this one. Exactly. I'll take that one. So this is source rect when you draw a texture is where inside the texture are you grabbing data from? And then I don't need a dest. Well, no, maybe I need a dest actually. Yes, dest equals draw texture district. Okay. So what this one does then is that you send in a texture and then you say a position. We're gonna say for now you know what, I'm gonna take all this, put it here. Now it will draw one paw for each option, but then I will add so it only draws it for the one that's actually selected. We don't have a state for the selected one yet, but here's the paw texture, source, test, origin, whatever, rotation, tint, rl.white. Oh yeah, I didn't put anything here. This is the position of the item on the screen. It's a vector 2. We also put it in here, and then we put it here. Does this one want anything else? No. Okay. Then drew a tiny paw here. Ah yeah, this one doesn't. Yeah, so I need to put in the scale manually here, and the reason for that is usually I don't need to. You see that it's here, the thing I'm drawing. It's of the wrong size because usually I draw with a camera in the game, and then the camera zooms everything in so my pixels get nice and chunky. But it doesn't happen when like now I'm just drawing it normally, which is, I mean, I could set up a camera at origin that zooms everything up, but you can also just do this, I think. Yeah, here you go. Oh, it's blurry. Oh, I know why. We need to begin shader mode. We need to put these things here around the whole drawing code. This is my filter for making the pixels not wobble so much when the camera is moving, which it's not doing. But in order to make that work, I have to put all the textures in bilinear blending mode. So then you have this problem that you need to do this everywhere. Oh yeah, the text gets sad from this. Does it? Wait a minute. It's just that it also uses pre-multiplied alpha to get the edges of the texture nice. I'll show you what I mean in the game. So what this little funny shader here, the pixel filtering shader, is that when you walk around in pixel art, it often like wobbling a lot. It's like shaking. You might see this in games where the kind of art is sort of shaking a lot. Now we can turn it off. I think I just remove these lines, and then it will. Okay, it's not gonna look correct now because now everything will be. So I put bilinear filtering and everything because the pixel filter requires that. So actually now there is no shaking. So it's a bad example. I will need to take out all the bilinear filtering for that to work properly. But anyways, so what it essentially does, these pixel filters, is that you have this nice, I can show a nice example from I have a whole video on this actually. It is a blog post by someone about pixel art filtering. And I think there's a shader toy here. Yeah, here's this one. Oh, here you can see the difference between these. I think you can see that the right one is very stable and the left one is like, it's shimmering a lot. The left one is shaking a lot while the right one is not shaking as much. Especially around the sharp edges of like the sharp contrasts. And this happens when you scale up pixel art that's, you know, has point sampling. You scale it up to a resolution because it ends up confused about which pixel it is in when it's zooming around and stuff. But so you make a filter. You put on a filter that essentially when it draws it sort of clamps it into the pixel correctly, so even though it's zooming around, the pixel doesn't get confused about which pixel should this render within on the actual like high res screen. But yeah, I use that stuff. But another thing about it is that about this kind of filters is that you often end up with, if you don't use pre-multiplied alpha, so you need two things to do this. You need a shader, and then you need to turn on pre-multiplied alpha, because without the pre-multiplied alpha you get a funny border around everything, and that's because you use bilinear filtering now suddenly, because the bilinear filtering is required for it to make the smooth patterns, make the texture smooth, so it can clamp properly on them in the pixel filtering shader. But now if I turn off the pre-multiplied alpha, everything gets a little outline, and that comes from the fact that I've turned on the bilinear filtering on the textures. So the reason, so you see here, this has an outline, which some people may like, oh, cool effect, but it's not on purpose, this outline, right? So if I turn on pre-multiply alpha, then these two blend together, which might be undesirable actually, because this is a cloud and these are the same color. But that's not the point. The point is that outline happened even though it shouldn't. Anyways, I was doing something and then I started talking about pixel art filtering. Did I turn off the shader toy? No. This is a good article. You can Google pixel art filtering and you can find this article, and it has lots of different shader toy examples with different source code where you can read and try to understand what it's all doing and stuff. Let's see. Main menu. What am I doing? Oh yeah, I'm like, this is not my main menu. I have to properly restart the game to get back to my main menu currently. Yeah, I got this thing in here. This one is black. Okay, we won't use the pool, we use a plop. Like a... Also, this looks like a kind of Batman thing, so it's not so good anyways. Do we have a nice... We will draw a square. We can have a function called rect from position and size. We put in the position and then we say like, oh la la la. What's it? 10 times GS maybe. So with this scaling in mind, then I can think of these numbers as, because this scaling is my pixel height that I want, which is 180 pixels, which is why I, when I think of the game, I think of it as having roughly 880 pixels on the height, and this is my actual screen height. So this makes it so that I can like think in my virtual pixel size, even though the game is scaled up. But usually this scale is baked into the camera. When I'm drawing the game normally, I don't have to care about the GUI scale, but here I don't have a camera. Maybe I should, I don't know. Color light. Okay, remove the paw. See here. There you go, there's your big blob. And then we offset it to the left because it's over here. So we say minus 14 maybe times 0. Oh, Nita. What am I doing here? That perhaps, yeah, moved away. Maybe it needs to go down a bit. Make it a bit smaller. Move it in a bit. Line it up here. 8. 1 less 7. No, 9. Can do plus here instead. So we can do minus here. And then here we say like this. There you go. And now we need to make sure that there's a active menu choice, like what is the currently marked one. So current choice is main menu choices. Why is it choices? It's called a main menu choice. If it's funny how this one doesn't, should take like a game state main menu. So this is the state struct here. Now, if s dot, what's it called? Current choice. So if the current choice stored inside the struct is the same as e, which is the one which this thing loops over all the choices in. So now the first one is marked because the enum defaulted to 0, which is the first choice. And then we can gather some input. We can put it maybe at the top here. Then we can ask if input.ui down. I just made this input stuff just last week. It's a bit messy maybe, but it has like, because I have a gamepad and keyboard, so I have this abstract input that's more related to this game. So there's like, do you holding up and down, and these are floats, so you can do like the smooth walking with the analog stick. And then you have like different, you jump, and jump is held, and then you have some buttons for choosing the next and previous item, and then you have all this UI stuff. And these are separate from these because they have this key repeat thing going on. And maybe I should try to be smarter about this, because if you have an analog stick and you just hold this, then it's like constantly going upwards, while with a keyboard you can do like key pressed. So maybe I should have like some smart way of making it so that it, like, essentially I want it to be like I have to press this, but if I hold it, maybe it should start going tick 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 tick. But to be fair, that stuff is not super important. Let's try this. Let's throw something in here. UI up. Curve choice minus equals 1. Oh yeah. Equals. This would probably not compile either, so I think I have to cast this one to an int and then cast it back to the enum. I know this might go out of bounds of the enum right now, or whatever, but that's, I will just clamp it or make it wrap around maybe. I think you have to do something like this. So you cast this to an int, subtract it. There you go. Now you can choose, so it disappears down here because it's outside. But then we can just do maybe this. If s.curveChoice is longer than main menu choice, then s.curveChoice is 0. And if curve choice is less than 0, then it should be the length of the enum, which is the number. Maybe it can't. I thought it could make comparisons like that. And this is not so weird. This is a thing you have to get used in Odin. Sometimes there's lots of casting going on because there's almost no implicit casts. But usually it's not a problem. But there are a few times when it gets a bit chatty like this. Yeah, so now it loops around, except that the last one, UI down, bigger or equals. Yeah. I mean, I have no idea yet how we're going to do the options, because that's going to be a sub-menu with its own choices. So I probably have to take this code later and make it into some kind of, this is the option screen and these are the options. We'll see. If in, okay. We'll do like this for now. This is the in-game use key. I need to in my input map like a couple of different keys to like choose something in the menu, right? Then we switch s.curveChoice. These are the cases. Start. Go to game init. Like that maybe, or exit will do gmember run equals false. Oh, these are enums, so they need a little period in front. Let's try turning off the game. Yeah, it worked. I was pressing the wrong key because It's the use key right now, so I can't use enter. Very nice. Hopefully I can start the game also. Yep. That's good. And there's currently no options. But we'll see about that. I think I need to make this maybe some of the, I don't know. We'll see how I do the option screen. That's nice and simple. And I also need an in-game menu. This is the main menu right now, but we'll see. I will need to have a quick break because I have not brushed my teeth because it's morning still. Brush your teeth, kids. Where's the... I wonder if I have like a... I'll mute this for now. It's like I put the webcam back a bit low when I was messing with it before. Okay. So we can start the game. It's good. Let's go to the input and we say call something UI select. In gather input we will do like this. This is my very unfancy input code, so it's like if there is a gamepad, currently you can't, it will use the first gamepad it finds, then it just tries to set state in this input struct, and then it also sets the game for using keyboard and all that. It's very unfancy, but you don't need fancy sometimes. So you can say, see here, if you push the use key, if any of these two, this is for the gamepad, we don't need to do it here, we can do it up here. Right face left. So the Raylib has, it just treats the D-pad is the left face, and this is these four here is the right face, which means I realize now that I've flipped my webcam, so left is right and right is left. But that's just because if I point towards the, like now I'm pointing towards the left side of the screen, and I like that to be, you know, pointing towards the left on the picture. But anyway, so this is the left face and this is the right face. So we just treat the D-pad, since the D-pad is just a bunch of buttons, and these are just a bunch of buttons, then essentially, you know, these two faces is essentially just 4 buttons. So that's pretty sensible, and it's pretty funny these days, you know, with games that in the old days, people used to be like, okay, these are, you have the face buttons, and then you have the triggers and the bumpers maybe. But in these days, some games have so many buttons that they start using these, like these 4 buttons are also do different things, because they're just buttons, the D-pad. But sometimes it's nice to support the D-pad also, like for walking with. Anyways, so we're gonna do input.UI select is true here. So if you press, no, that's wrong. If you press the right face down, which is X on the PlayStation, or right face left, which is square, let's just use this one, will not be UI select. And then on the keyboard, we will both do, where is input.UI select is true. We'll add a new one, r.is key pressed, enter, UI select, and maybe space bar is here, pressed. We can use space as well. Like that. Main menu. And now we can change this to UI select. There you go. And I should also be able to use the gamepad, hopefully. Let's try that. Yeah, can play with the gamepad. I've added also so the one thing that pops up, it's quite a good idea to add your gamepad support earlier, because I didn't, but if you just use keyboard, you have totally digital keys, meaning that you can't, there's no in-between states, you know, you can't hold there's no analog stick, is what I'm trying to say. When you have the analog stick, then you can walk slowly, or at least you can get input that's between 0 and 1 in direction. So I did add that, so it it only gives you the speed based on how much you're holding the stick. Currently I'm also modifying the animation speed. So, but what you usually want is when you walk slow enough, it changes into another animation, because if you walk like semi-fast, like this still looks okay-ish but if you walk really slow like this, then it starts looking weird, because the cat is defying physics, because essentially the reason it looks weird is because, you know, in a run animation the feet are off the ground for much longer than when you're walking. You're essentially not touching the ground quite a lot when you're running. So if you play that slower, then for some frames of animation, you're defying physics and flying around, which is not so good. Yeah. Anyways, let's see. So we have our UI select in. And now let's add the escape menu. So currently I will make it go to the main menu, ending the game, but then we will add an in-game menu as well. Maybe we will add it to the input struct as well. Toggle menu, you call it. And this one is like, if rl.is gamepad button press GP, and I would guess this one is called start. Then input dot the start button is a bit weird, because, you know, in the olden days you used to go around the menu with your D-pad or something, and then you press the start button, and that was the button that, I think at least, that used to choose things in the menu. But these days people use it as like essentially the gamepad version of escape. Like you press it and then it jumps into a in-game menu or something. So, you know, one part of me feels like if I'm in a menu and I press start while something is selected, then it should choose that. But for the in-game menu, like, you know, the one you can go into, change some options and then go back to the game, that button should just actually close the menu. But in old games, in like the main menu of old games, the start button used to be like the confirm button. So it's a bit weird, but I think it's just the start button is gonna be toggle. I'm gonna do the same thing here. So in the long run with all this, what I want to do is replace this stupid gather input function here, because I want rebindable bindings from the menu. So then this will be a sort of a bit more abstract. Is key press dot escape, maybe it's called, input dot toggle menu. It was true. Okay, it's not called dot start gamepad button. Middle right. So the raylib is very generic. So it talks about faces, left face, right face. There's a left trigger and a left trigger 1, 2, These are usually called L1, L2, R. I would be hesitant to call this one a trigger, but I understand what it's saying. And then you have left and right thumb, but I think that's when you press the joystick itself. Middle right. Yeah, and then we just need to go to play mode update. See here. Update default. In here. Go to the bottom of this. You can say if input dot toggle menu. Currently it will just do like this. Gmem dot game state is main menu. Then later we will add, so it can jump into a toggle menu that keeps, and it doesn't remove the state for the game and stuff. Here you go. Does the start button work? Oh, like a real game now. I did try to push the start button to I should investigate that in games, if it is that the main menu, in the main menu the start button is used as sort of an action button, but in the pause menu it's not. Okay, good. Oh, so good. I have a menu. Game state main menu. Very nice. So this is all my code from my main menu. Maybe now we try adding the pause menu just to see where we can take this. Game memory. So this is the game state in game menu. I call it not the pause menu, but it's the in-game menu. I know I'm gonna run into some trouble here because this union is probably gonna have to be a pointers here instead. The reason for that is there's some state kept in here, so if you leave the space game and go into the in-game menu, then some state in here might be thrown away. Or maybe the menu should be like on a layer above. It's like a, yeah, maybe that's what should happen. Or maybe there should be like sort of the root state of the game. Like there's a main menu, in-game menu, and then you're playing, and that's just the three things in there. I don't know. Let's try this for now. Game state main menu. In-game menu. Update. Proc. menu. This little function to run our in-game menu. Something like that, maybe. Case. So the thing about this project is that compared to when I usually do stuff, like I come from more from engine programming and especially tools programming for engines is what I worked with. I don't usually write that much gameplay code, but my problem is usually, and I think this is a problem for many sort of people coming from the engine side of things, that they always try to make everything, all the systems so perfect that it's hard to get anywhere, because you're like you're polishing gameplay code too early and trying to make it nice and tidy. So this game actually has a bit of a much messier code than I'm used to, than I usually do. And as a joke, I said to someone that what I'm most proud of in this game is that my gameplay code is a bit messy, because it takes some, like when you're used to sitting down and taking so much time with everything, it can be quite hard to kind of stop and go do something else and just leave it for a while it's like, oh, this is good enough for now, or it's okay if this feature with, for example, the menus is not built in the most super robust way, as long as it works for this specific game, because you can really waste time on, like, not waste time, but you can really end up not getting anywhere with your game. Or just, people who always start on a new game project before they finish your old one. And I think a lot of that might come from trying to... It comes a lot from trying to, like, polish gameplay code and stuff before it actually needs that, or maybe implementing things that you think you need but you don't, and also trying to make the code more tidy than it needs right now. You're just sort of like, instead of programming, you're just kind of like going around sort of organizing things in the code, and it's a weird thing. I'm a bit proud that I'm not doing that much in this game, which makes the code a bit messier. Dun 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 dun. All right. Now, this toggles the in-game menu. There's no way to get out of it, but we can do update in-game. What's it called? In-game menu update. We can say if input.toggle menu, and now we come to this problem I talked about, that this will work probably, because the game's default doesn't contain anything. But I have some, so now I think I can go over here. Yeah, that works. That's nice. Maybe I want the small menu in the middle and the game drawing in the background instead. I think that's a good idea to do, because then I need to force myself, because I have had some code that's actually drawing like there's a few places where it draws stuff in the update code. So usually you split your game into update and draw, right? Because if you draw in your update code, then you can't, like, for example, you can't maybe run your update code twice, like, or you reuse it in some places without drawing stuff, and you can't do stuff like, oh, I have made a pause menu, so it should still draw, but it should no longer update. So it's nice to split it up. I think it's mostly split up, but I need to look a bit at it. So maybe we'll try to do that. We might have to redo a bit of things I've done here, but yeah. I need to split things up in like an update, a draw for the main game, and then we'll need like some kind of root state that's like, this is the main menu and we're playing, or we're in an or we're in the toggle in the in-game menu. So yeah, let's try to do that. I think it's a good idea. I'm quickly gonna commit some code here. And now we'll try to do that. So how do I do that nicely? There's lots of different ways to do this kind of thing, where the game is not updating in the background and you are but you're still drawing. I remember a long time ago I used to do the kind of layers thing, where you could have both. You could have layers of like, oh, this layer is like, it's like a sorted list of like, oh, first it draws the game, and then it has an extra layer on top with the menu, and then sort of the menu says that don't update the one below me, which is the game, but do draw it. So then you can have this sort of pause menus. But I'm just gonna do something simpler here, where it's just some code that does it for me. So I think in that case we need to split this up a bit more somehow. Let's look here. So we have game state. This is like the in-game state, right? And then what am I supposed to call these things? We have game state, which is what the game is currently doing. And I don't want to affect those with the menu state. So there would be main menu, like there would be main menu, in-game menu, and then playing, sort of, I think. Which are the three. Oh. What should I call it? What shall I call it? Do do do. Do do do. Hello, Phenoxys. Welcome. So I'm just trying. I'm doing the hardest thing in program. I'm trying to name stuff. So okay, let's just try to like root state. That's a name. Yeah, we're naming things. So when it's in this state, then this won't even be considered when it's not in this state. Well, it's only in this state that it will actually play the game. This one will draw the game but not update it. We'll see how all this works out. I don't really know. Game state main menu. So this is a root state main menu now. Very nice. Root state in-game menu. Right. Then we will cut these out from here. Let's compile it and see what it does. Root state playing. Yeah, we need that one. Root state playing. So as a struct. Right. And then these guys need to go. Right. And then we need to go to game memory. Does the game... Yeah, I was thinking if the root state should be a union or if it should be an enum, but I think for the menus I want to keep some state inside them, so let's just keep them as a let's just keep them like that. Oh, root state. Remove this stuff. Oh no, wait. This is root state. This root state main menu. So today we are adding a menu to the game. We haven't had a main menu or an in-game menu or anything like that. And in the end, I also want it to be so that we can maybe change key bindings in there. But first we're trying to sort of see how it all fits in. Okay. Now this, of course, compiles, but now it doesn't do anything anymore because I think even if especially if I start the game, I think the game will be broken now again. Yeah, now it's like this. Because it doesn't consider the root states yet. So we go to update, game update, blah blah blah. So in play mode update here. Root state. Then we will compile that, as we call it, and it will do like a few different things. In the case of playing, this is the playing stuff, so we can just do the nesting of the century in here. We'll do that like that for now, and then we'll do root main menu update. And then we'll do in-game menu update. And then maybe this one can do a draw default just before. It just draws everything. Yes, this works. Can't start anymore. Main menu update. What does... start needs also to change the gmem.root state to root state playing. There you go. Now it started. Ah! Flashing. I know why it's flashing. Because this one draws and it does a full begin and end draw, which does in computer games you have something called the back buffer, which is what the game, like what is going to be displayed on your graphics card in the end. And end drawing, what it does, whatever you've drawn, it will while you're drawing it will draw it into a separate buffer, and then at end drawing it will flip it so that stuff ends up on the back buffer, which will be displayed on the screen. Because by default it uses sort of double buffering, so you get like you're drawing to something, and then when you're done it just swaps out the whole image, and that way you won't see this kind of thing happening on the screen where if you don't have double buffering, you can sort of see things appear, or you kind of, as if it shows the graphics card decides to show the stuff before it's done drawing. So that's where you have double buffering. And what was happening there, why it was flashing so much, was because it was first it's doing this one, the menu, so, and then it makes process, like here at the end draw it says, okay, I'm done drawing these things, show that on the screen. And then it also runs draw default, which will draw the game world, and then it'd be like, okay, put this on the screen. So yeah, but this is sort of some of the problems I need to solve here. I guess draw default maybe shouldn't. Maybe it should be like this. Maybe this is all there is to it. Oh. And then we go to the bottom here and we remove that one. Do this one as well. And then we can put these two guys with end and begin draw around both. See if that's the correct way to do it. Still flashing. Oh, I know why, because this one also does none of them can do that. Here, of course, not. Now it will just be like this, and that's not so weird because this one does a clear background. What it should do instead is it should be like rl.draw rectangle. Draw rectangle. What's the screen rect? Screen rect. Don't I have like a function to rectangle? Screen rectangle. What's it called? Camera rect. Ah, okay. What's the camera rect even? Fire asks if I write all code in a single file. Most of it is in a single file. This file is currently 7,200 lines. I have a few extra files, like I have my asset storage, which is totally separate stuff, and I have my editor file, which is the whole editor for the game, which is 2,700 lines of code. That's everything. Like you can go into at any point into this editor mode. There's a few more files. There's some editor GUI controls, which is like some reusable editor controls, which I've implemented with my own EM GUI stuff. There's my serializer is separate, stuff like that. But you can see the file sizes here, like the game file is 164 kilobytes, and these other ones are much smaller. And you know, some people might think that, oh, it's crazy, or why is everything in the same file? Isn't that super messy and like you get merge conflicts? Well, it's only me working on the game, so I don't get that many conflicts, and I don't have trouble finding things, because I mean I never scroll around and sort of look for things that much. I just use find symbol and write the name. So most of the time it doesn't occur to me to put in a separate file, because I don't gain much from it. Anyways. But I have been thinking of splitting things up slightly more into files. But it's one of those things where people like doing, like I said before, that one of the things I'm proudest of in this game is that the code is a bit messier than usually. So I come from like tools programming in video games for game engines, and then, you know, I've been very, very tidy always. And with gameplay programming, you usually end up, I at least end up, if I'm too tidy with everything, then I get nothing done, because I'm just cleaning up my code all the time. So now I'm just trying to be a bit more, I'm being a bit too messy, but you know, I'm trying to find a balance to get just kind of furiously program and get things done, rather than spend too much time on structure. But structure is important if you're working a lot with others. Like I said, you can get you get more annoying merge conflicts and stuff if you have very big files, for example. But I don't get the problem. Phenoxys asks, which language are you using? I'm using Odin programming language, which I think you can Google Odin programming language and you find more info about it. But it's essentially a low-level language with a high-level feeling. So it has manual memory management, static typing, it's compiled, all that. But it has lots of modern things like a context that you can put allocators in, and lots of, like, in difference to C, for example, it has generics. Yay. So it's like C with generics, nicer syntax, no header files, and lots of high-level syntactic sugar that makes it nice to write code. But you still have the low-level memory control. So Drewfire is trying Odin for Advent of Code. That's very cool. You can't. Is LSP? Is that like the language server, like the for getting autocomplete and stuff? There is the thing called OLS, which is the Odin language server, which I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the LSP is, but. But I think people have used the Odin language server in VS Code and Sublime Text properly to get auto-completion. I don't have it. I should try it again. It was a bit buggy last time I tried it, but it's supposedly all fixed now. But I'm a bit like, it's easy to burn bridges with me with technology. I'm like, I tried it once. Yeah. So I don't have the, like I said, I don't have OLS installed. One way I found it easy to work with the language is that because the standard library, is it lives inside it's not compiled and you have all the source code. So I have in my Sublime project, this is just like a tangent. It's not helping with the OLS stuff because I think you're getting help from chat with that. But another nice way to do it is like I have the core library of Odin inside my Sublime project, which means I can do symbol search like string from pointer, whatever. So I can do symbol search, and that also includes symbols in the standard library. And I can also jump into any code inside the standard library with like go to symbol button. So that's, to me, that has been quite nice, and that means I don't have to go to the web to look in the, like I don't have to go to GitHub, and look at the Odin source code. But yeah. I found that it's quite nice to be able to jump easily into the core library code also, because you read it and you learn lots about the language from just reading that code, and then slowly you kind of build up this knowledge of how the whole standard library is put together, and you learn how the language itself works, and then after a while you're just very fluent in it from just having the standard library in your project. So it's quite nice. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we're trying to draw a rectangle here. What I was doing was, oh yeah, it was the camera rect stuff. Don't I have a function to get the whole screen? Screen width, I guess not. I guess we're making it. Screen space rect, whatever it's called. I mean, it's a very unfancy rectangle. It's just like this. Return 0, 0, screen width, screen height. And then we do menu background is inset rect, which takes a rectangle and sort of removes from it, kind of makes it smaller. And then we say, and let's go to the main menu. I want to steal some code from it. The GUI scale. So Drewfire, if you're having more trouble with, if you can't get it to work, the Odin language server, go to the Odin Discord server, and there's you can find on there a channel called OLS. And in there the author of the language server is, and lots of people who know exactly how it works. And they usually help everyone get, there's usually someone who can help you get it going. This is interesting. Yeah, so then we have the menu background. Let's see if this works now. Ah, you see, it's drawing the game behind, and this one is here. Very nice. But I can't play the game because it's paused, sort of. Wait, it's already here. Toggle menu, game state default. Ah, root state. Root state is root state playing. Yeah, that works fine. We could even put the menu on the right or something like this. So we take the full screen rect and we say menu background is split off or cut rect. Right, so we cut off this rect on the right with like how much? 80 times the bam, something like that. Maybe it's nicer. Yeah. So that works quite nicely. It's just what I did here is just in my big update function, it switches on the root state. If it's main menu, it does one thing. In-game menu, then it draws the world, and then it does the in-game menu update. But if it's playing, it does the full thing with updating and drawing and whatever it wants. So now maybe we can do something cute like let's get the main menu update here. I wonder if there's a program for streamers that, like, you know, I have my camera in the lower right here. I wonder if there's a program that sort of draws on the screen like a tinted red area, so I know that, you know, because it's always on streams people put shit behind their camera, but I could still use this area up here, but it's just this area down here in the right corner I shouldn't use, which also means I can't really use this area. But maybe there's something I can install that draws on my screen, sort of a no-go zone. Okay, now we go back here and we draw some text. Menu content. Menu rect is menu is inset rect menu background. So let's put in a few pixels, maybe 5 GS. That. Something like that maybe. And then it should stay paused here. It's nice. And then it just needs to go to main menu choice. Yeah, I have to probably come up with some cool system to make menus here, because these things is... Well, I have to come up with some concept for a sub-menu at least. We'll see. For now, we do like this. Current choice. Right. Now I'm wondering. Forbidden Zone streamer overlay. I'm just wondering if there's like some nice application that I can use to... I want to like have a tinted sort of area down here that I don't go into. I don't know. Maybe someone has a good idea. Maybe someone has a good idea. Hello, Laura. Thanks. Okay. You know what I can do for now? I can do this. I can take like a... Oh, I know. I take my terminal and I put it here. You can't see it because it's behind the... Looking at the... I have OBS up in the corner here. I mean, it's not round, so it's not perfect, but... like that. And then I have a hotkey to make... I can make anything always on top. Because... Windows actually supports making any window always on top. So I've added a auto hotkey and does that for me. Yeah, very good. See here if it's... Could probably make it a bit bigger. Like that. Okay. Enough of that. Maybe we should make some generic menu, but not now. I can do that when I have some code for... I just copy paste from the main menu to this one. When I have some code for both main menu and in-game menu, I can look at what is the similarities, and I could try to make a, you know, then I can try to make a generic code. It's not a good idea to make a generic code before you have at least 2 use cases, because otherwise you don't know what the generic part is. Like what's the shared part between in-game menu and main menu, and maybe they will have how I make the options screen, like like where I do the key bindings, maybe that will also affect it a bit. So initially it's usually best to just duplicate some code, have code in one place, and then you copy it to another place, and then you change both until you're happy, and then you can look and like try to see, oh, actually these two can collapse back into a single thing. But it depends, of course. If it's something obvious that you can reuse, then you should do that. Or it's just a function you can call it, of course you should use it. But in this case, it was like slightly different menu code, where I would have to make like a generic menu thingy handler. So the only difference between start playing and continue is that it doesn't load any level. It just pops the game back into playing. Yeah, this is in the wrong. It should be over here, but that's not so weird because I'm not using the menu rectangle here. You may wonder why I try to keep my font size fairly big for 2 reasons. Some people watch streams in window mode. Not everyone sits in full screen and watches. Just look a bit every now and then. And also I've noticed that it's quite nice to have... I noticed that my streams I can put them on the phone, and if I flip it into portrait, the text is usually big enough. So I know people lie in their bed and look at random things. So I think it's just nice that it's watchable by anyone on a phone as well. But yeah. This one we set to 0. So we'll do this. Menu rec.x and then menu rec.y plus menu item pos. Maybe? And now it's all in there. So we say this is, maybe this was good. That's too far. And then all this needs to be pushed in a bit. It's a bit stupid that okay, this works. Exit currently will do the wrong thing. Will I don't know if there's any need in my game for exit. Oh, we'll try that. Exit to main menu. Quit to main menu. Quit. To this. Quit to main menu or just quit. I think that's good names. Quit does this. Quit to main menu does. change the root state to root state main menu. Bloop. This text is a bit big, maybe. And also, I'm currently using the enum for the text, which worked until now. Now I'm seeing if, isn't there a function to like pretty print stuff? I don't know. Whatever. Yeah, that works. That one shuts down. Dun 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 dun. Start. Very good. So pause menu. It pauses mostly perfectly in error and stuff. Good. Good. Okay, we have our menus. Now the question is, should we get started on this options screen maybe? I think I'm gonna do that after lunch, because it's almost lunchtime here now. So I think I need to go eat something. Yeah, I think I'll stop the stream and start a new one later, because I can do try to figure out options on stream as well. That might be quite fun to do, like key bindings and stuff. But I have to go eat, and I think it's best I shut it down so it doesn't just sit here with a notice that says I am in lunch. Okay. So I'll see you all in a bit, or thanks for watching if you're not around later.